All right, good evening, and we will get started here very shortly. I don't want to mess around too long. Get right into it. There's so many things. I title a show, and then we'll talk about whatever we want. And then if I have to go back and change the title, so be it. I know we're going to touch on some things, the big news of the week, but then I've got other things that we could possibly go into. It's all good. We make it up as we go along. In the end, as long as liberty is the main thing that we derive from the show, then it's a win. So let me start the recording. Check my card real quick. I need to probably format it before we start. There we go. And then we'll proceed with the Liberty Talk.
The Constitution isn't just a document. It's a blueprint for freedom. We're breaking down politics at every level, exposing government overreach, and going where the mainstream media surely won't. Join us in defending individual rights against the bureaucratic tide. You're listening to the Missouri Liberty Report.
All right, folks, and we are back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Again, thanks to all of you who listen on any podcasting app out there, or if you listen at molibertyradio.us, or you watch us on YouTube or Rumble or Facebook. Greatly appreciate each and every one of yours conviewed. Yes, already tripping over my tongue. Your continued viewership and listenership, we greatly appreciate it. Now, we've got all kinds of things that we could talk about today. Like all kinds. There's all kinds of news. All kinds of craziness.
All kinds.
I mean, we could lead off with, is burning the American flag should that really get you a year in prison?
Let's start there. There's a lot. There's a lot to dive into. I don't think the executive order he signed actually does that. I think he was just saying that, but I don't think it's actually true, which makes me wonder if he just said that to get people talking about it, or if because again, Trump is not a dumb guy. He's not a dumb guy. So I don't want to ever credit the things he's I'm not going to ever give him a pass on something because, he's just didn't realize or didn't understand. I think it's like a deeper play. I really do. I think he understands what's in the executive order and then understood what he said when he said it. And I guess the motives on that's not entirely clear. The simpler explanation would be he's just an idiot, but no, I'm glad to see that the fair amount of conservatives have come out of the woodwork defending the First Amendment. I think flag burning's stupid. I don't really understand it, but it's definitely protected speech. There's definitely no crime involved. And I saw a video. I can't remember the quotes exactly, but Antonin Scalia, the former U.S. Supreme Court justice who passed away, he had a video out where he was defending burning the flag and how it has been defended in front of the Supreme Court several times as protected free speech. You should be able to burn any flag you want of any kind if it's your flag and your property. You should be able to burn it whatever you want. This is just a no-brainer. This is so dumb.
Yeah, it almost, when Trump does things like we're talking about here, he's like, it's a year in prison, blah blah blah, and the whoever his guy is like, well, here's what it says, and it doesn't say anything about a year in prison. It's like everything's a marketing campaign. You know what I'm saying? Like, he'll say some things because he knows how to get the media and the people's attention, and it just gets them talking about it. It's like, he's like a salesman slash president. Now, what he's selling you is a line of absolute BS, right? He's selling you an absolute line of BS. But the dude the dude is selling it. Like he sells it, and the media and a lot of the so-called MAGA people out there just lap it up. And he's probably sitting in an office somewhere in a chair laughing his tail end off because he knows exactly what buttons to push, what screws to turn, what words to say, and it keeps the people just and the media and everybody just riled up. And it's almost like he's running another reality show. Like he's like, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna do this, and then we're gonna sit and watch it. And it's like all the other people get to sit back and go, Jesus Christ, these people are freaking out. Now, you should, if someone tries to write an executive order, which is restraining your natural right of free speech, you should be upset. But then you also wouldn't hear the other side, the Democrats, if someone burned a pride flag, they would consider that hate speech and they would want you thrown in jail, which I think people have been thrown in jail or attempted to been thrown in jail for burning a pride flag. So it's just because I don't know. I'll let you get
Well, I
granted. It's just it seems like the Democrats are afraid to 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 say anything about it because they have a lot of flag burners but they want a different flag protected, just not the American flag. So it's like the Democrats have to be careful on what they say because they don't want their side to pull away from them, but they also don't want to be seen as aligning with President Trump. So it's freaking hilarious to watch.
Well, sure, but in my opinion, it kind of just more broadly shows the hypocrisy of the
Yes.
Republican Party. You can't sit there and complain that burning the LGBTQ ZXY double exclamation point flag, like burning that flag, you can't claim that that's free speech. And then when someone else burns a flag, say that that's a crime, even if it's the American flag, which for the second time, I'll reiterate, I don't agree. Like, I don't see the point in burning the American flag. I wouldn't do it. I would probably shame someone who did it, but I wouldn't, given the circumstances. But I would never use the government to force someone not to do it or to put them in jail for a year. You think I want to pay for that guy to live in jail for a year? Forget about it. No, that's just more taxpayer money that I'd have to pay because somebody else burned a flag. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, it is. So here's my thing. Here's where I don't understand burning the American flag because to me it and I but I also don't understand why people get so irate that someone burns a flag. It's like that's a symbol. It's supposed to be a symbol of what this country stands for. But our government has taken that flag and flown it in other countries not as a way of gesturing that we love freedom and we want you to be free. They've done it in an empire building and horrible foreign policy way. So the symbolism to the government and people around the world, it doesn't stand for freedom anymore. It doesn't stand for liberty, right? So you've got that part. I I also but here's what irritates me, right? If someone is getting government assistance of some kind, if someone's getting welfare or they're getting government money, and then they get mad at a governor or they get mad at somebody like a president, and then they go out and burn the flag and hate on the country, it's like, okay, then you need to stop taking all those government dollars. You should take the next month check, and put return to sender and ship it back. Or you should block the payment the automatic payment that's coming into your checking account. You should block it and bounce it back. If you're that upset, and so that's the problem. That's where I get angry. I don't no, not angry. I just get irritated. It's like, okay, you'll take the money that doesn't belong to you that was stolen from other people that live in this country, but then you'll turn around and burn the flag because you hate the country. It's like you better make up your mind. You're like really splitting hairs here. And that's where I can't get my mind past. I can't get my mind to like flex in that way to where I can hate on the government, but then be like, another monthly check, please. Oh, I get an increase. Yes.
No, you're bringing up a good point that I want to touch on here for just a second, which is the people who burn the flag 99.9% of the time are just socialists, the Antifa fascists. They're the fascists pretending to be anti-fascists. Like they burn the flag as like a mark against capitalism, which is like that's what I was saying earlier. Like if I was, just crazy scenario, I'm walking by and someone's like, I hate capitalism, and starts burning the American flag, I would probably have to stop and say something like, you are a huge idiot. I mean, capitalism has saved millions, if not billions of people from poverty and starvation and disease and famine. Like capitalism did all these great things. But at the same time, if let's say you had a brother or a relative who lived in Palestine, and the United States just sold Israel another bomb to blow up another hospital, and then you, out of anger and frustration, having one of your family members killed, was like, down with the military-industrial complex. This flag stands for a global empire, and I won't have it. I might leave you alone on it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a gray area for sure. I'm not going to say everyone who burns a flag year in jail. That's the dumbest take you can have. Yeah. But the person I just described a second ago is never the person who's burning the flag. It is 100% almost every single time some socialist who just has no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like, if you're like, the military industrial complex sucks, and you're like, and then just stomp down, and you're like, fist bump, and you walk away. The person, yeah, and you're right, and that's the thing. Now, here's the funny thing. Like, listening to some of these shows is funny because, like, I was listening to Matt Taibbi's show This Week in America. I got to listen to a little bit on my way home from work today. And I can never remember the name of the other journalist that he does the show with. He was like, I wanted to be the first one to go out and buy a flag and burn it just to see if I'd be the first person arrested. The guys on Good Morning Liberty are like, let's go buy a flag tomorrow and burn it and see what happens. Like, that, you have all these people like saying, I'm going to go out and buy a flag just to set it on fire. And that's perfectly fine. The only time, and this is, I know I'm stating the obvious in common sense, but the only time someone should get arrested for burning a flag is if they steal your flag and then burn it. That now you've done theft. You performed a thieverous act, arson. So now you have crimes that you've committed. Those are things because you have infringed on someone else's property rights. So now there should be trouble. But if you go to Walmart, buy a flag that's probably made in China or Australia or wherever, not made in the U.S., and then you just like, I'm going to set this on fire, I'm going to be like, you could probably just go to some AI website and say, make me a video of me burning a flag. Make it look like my front yard and I'm burning a flag, and save yourself the $14 on the flag. I mean, that's insane. Like, you just literally spent $14 just to burn the flag. But I do understand the mentality, and I do understand the sentiment when you're like, yeah, that just makes people want to go out and burn a flag to make a statement. Like, this is dumb. We have way bigger problems on our hands, like all the wars we're funding and all the money we're wasting, and yet you want to write some executive order that says you can't burn a flag, and it's like, I just want to burn one just to see if the FBI shows up. Like, that's my thing. Stupid. Yeah.
So to kind of transition us out, but just to kind of touch on it, I'm not certain. So I was saying earlier, there's a calculated move to what he's doing here. I don't think that he just woke up and decided this. If this is calculated, this may be a distraction for all of the other stuff that's going on. I think that.
Yes.
Like I'm starting to come around to the belief that like this flag thing was just something he's like, I'm gonna throw this out there because my base is gonna love it. The other side's gonna oppose it, and we're like all of the people in the middle will eventually forget about this, which is probably true. This under the same guise in the same guidelines. I think this Cracker Barrel thing is blown out of proportion on purpose.
Yes.
Like if you were going to get rid of a symbol because it has like a bad cultural like symbol, like if you were going to get rid of your logo because of the bad cultural symbolism that's supposedly there, wouldn't you have?
We lost Brandon. Oh, never mind. You're good. It lost connection for a second. You'll have to back up to where you were talking about Cracker Barrel and changing your symbol.
So if Cracker Barrel was going to change their logo because of the cultural symbolism behind it, wouldn't they have done it when everyone else was doing it? Like whenever Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben's, or I'm not sure if they did. Well, all those companies, they were changing out their logos.
Land O'Lakes,
the Cleveland Guardians, the Washington Commanders. Like you would think that if a company was gonna change their logo based on that reasoning, they would have done it years ago. Because I don't know of anyone who was like pushing this Cracker Barrel logo change for like any sort of ethnic or racial reasoning. I think it was just a rebrand. And I really don't understand why all of these conservatives all of a sudden are like I'm never gonna eat at Cracker Barrel again because they changed their logo and the inside looks a little different. It's just a company making a change. I think it's like one of these distraction things. I think the media wants to talk about it because we're not talking about Ukraine. We're not talking about Israel. We're not talking about how the government's controlling the means of production now. Like, I think this is just one of those things. It's like burning the flag or whatever. It's just it's something to get you to not talk about what's really like the important things that are going on.
I think you'll have to. Pardon me. I was just thinking, if I was in charge of creating the label for Cracker Barrel, I would have changed it to where it would have been like a top-down view into a barrel, and there would just been a bunch of white people in there, and I'm like, Cracker Barrel, and you're just like, oh, and people would have flooded to the locations with that new signage. There'd be old white people in droves, like, that's me. I'm a cracker. I want to get in a barrel and eat those tasty chicken and dumplings. Don't you talk smack about my Cracker Barrel. So yeah, I think that would be a great rebranding just to have. Oh God. Oh, Kevin Spacey says, wait a minute. We got to show this on the screen here. I heard they were going to change the name to European American Barrel. Okay. I mean, that's, yeah, I would, anything, dude. And see, that's the problem. I can't, some of this stuff, I can't hardly take seriously. It's because, and again, like you were just saying, all these other things that are going horribly wrong, all the things that's driving the economy into the crapper, all the things that keeps driving inflation, the spending, the debt, the Federal Reserve, the central planners, all these things. And you're going to get mad about Cracker Barrel? Now, if you have a store that, I wanted to bring up one other thing. I'm glad that I'm over the age of 18, Brandon, because earlier we were talking about transitioning, and I was like, I'm glad I'm not a kid because that's illegal. But I almost forgot about that before, and I let that one slide, so I had to bring it back. But if you go into a store and they're selling the tuckable stuff for little kids, I can see you getting upset because you're like, now wait a minute, what are we doing here? Like Target. If Target had, preteen tuckable like swimwear, okay, get upset. I can get that because you're like, you're bringing out the worst in society and saying this is cool, we're going to normalize it. If you take the old white dude off the Cracker Barrel sign and that gets you mad, I mean, is it because they feel like someone's appropriating their culture? Like, you took the white dude off the Cracker Barrel. We can't stand for this. I don't understand how in this day and age, how you can set such a large group of people off by doink. I mean, the Land O'Lakes thing was funny, right? Because the Land O'Lakes thing was, you took the Indian off of the thing, but you kept the land. Oh, good job. Like that one,
that's actually, I never heard that before. That's
you pulled the Native American off there, but you kept the land. Good job, Land O'Lakes. But Mrs. Buttersworth apparently was pretty wealthy, but I mean, did pretty well after that whole thing. Uncle Ben, I don't know. Did a black guy come up with a special kind of rice? I don't know. But why are you getting all upset that there's a black person on a label? I mean, it'd be different if Uncle Ben had like a shackle around his neck and you're like, holy crap, these people are promoting slavery. But he didn't. It was just an older black gentleman on a box of rice. Why are you so mad? And you know what the sad part is? I think this is the worst part, Brandon. It's liberal white women who caused the problem with this. They're the ones that get the most upset. It's not black people. The liberal white women are the worst for going in and acting just so upset. And they get so angry about something that literally means nothing, but just to virtue signal to their black friends or whatever that they're with them, that they'll do this stuff. And it's like, no one's getting sold into slavery. I mean, if you're in a Muslim country, that might happen, but here in the United States,
what is this, Lebanon? Or not? Was that Lebanon? No, not
Libya.
Lebanon. Libya. Yeah. What is this, Libya? No.
I don't know, bro. Well, real quick though, talking to a guy that I worked with who was in the Marine Corps, he told me over there in Afghanistan, and they're moving through areas, and you see these guys with 8, 9, 10-year-old boys, and there's no wife. It's a sex slave. And he goes, dude, you just want to go over there and thump them in the head, but you're not allowed to. He's like, you know exactly what's going on, but you can't do anything about it. You have to just keep going like nothing happened. So that all goes on. But you have a African-American man on a box of rice, and we need to fix that mucho pronto, because someone, I'll let you go on, because if I keep going, my head's right, dude.
The fake outrage is ridiculous. It's like, you're 100% right. It's not real. They're not really mad about the Uncle Ben's thing. It's just they're doing it for attention. Like you said, there are 50 worse things happening all over the world at any given time for you to be way more upset than Uncle Ben's or Aunt Jemima or any of that nonsense. I did see this funny stand-up joke. It was this black guy, and he goes, I thought my life was pretty good. I thought things were going pretty well for me, and then I got basic cable. And then I started listening to all these white women on TV, and turns out I've got it really bad, which I thought was hilarious. And then
that is awesome.
To Kevin Spacey, it's actually, they're not changing it to European American barrel. It's going to be called Anglo-Saxon barrel. That's the new name.
We should make our own butter, Brandon. We should find someone who will produce butter, but it will be called Imperial Butter. And then for the logo, all the letters will be made up of all the countries that we've tampered with.
Isn't Imperial already the name of the fake butter?
Oh, God, it is. Okay, Empire Butter.
Empire Butter.
Empire Butter. And then for the letters of the name, we'll just take and make the letters out of all the countries that we've tampered with in their elections or overthrown dictators or go in there. Yeah, and then we'll just make all the letters out of all those countries, and we'll just call it Empire Butter. And when you eat it, it'll taste like sand, because we love tampering in the Middle East. So you'll just get this sandy butter flavor on your sandwich.
We'll paint it red, white, and blue with food. We'll color it red, white, and blue.
Yes.
And then it'll just be loaded with sand.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then maybe just a teensy weensy bit of gunpowder too.
Mhm.
Not for freedom, not for the natural right of self-defense, but just the gunpowder to symbolize.
If you can somehow put debt into a flavor, that's
That's gonna taste like.
Vienna sausages.
Hey, bro, don't talk bad about Vienna sausages. I
I
used to eat
will.
those.
Oh,
I will tear up.
wow.
I'm not gonna say what I was
The
gonna say.
first time I ever had a Vienna sausage, I was I got hammered the night before I was supposed to walk at my high school graduation. And so, no, it was graduation practice. We had graduation practice, and I got hammered like the night before. And then I woke up the next day with like a splitting hangover at my buddy's house, and he had no food in the whole house. And so all we could find was this can of Vienna sausages. And mind you, I feel like I'm going to die already. So pop open that can. I eat the first one and I'm like, this is magical. Like, oh, this is awesome. I've never had such a delicious food because I was just in a state where like I needed something. So I ate the second one and I was like, oh, maybe that was just a honeymoon bite because this is getting a little rough. I ate 2.5 of the sausages out of that can because I got halfway through another piece of sausage and realized that it was just salted, sweaty pork mush, dude. I hate to diss on your Vienna sausages. And in fairness, I didn't put mustard on it. I didn't throw it on a cracker. I was eating them straight out of the can. But, oh, man. The first one is great. The second one, okay. The third one, not edible. I don't know how you like. I think they feed Vienna sausages to the guys in Gitmo.
They might. Listen, I will say this. Like, when I was a kid growing up, once in a blue moon, my dad would make me, oh my God, are you trying to murder me right now? Cool. Thanks. My dad would make scrambled eggs, but you know the little cans of potted meat? You ever seen those?
Yeah.
It's just called potted meat. So he would take and mix some of that potted meat in with the scrambled eggs. So you get that egg flavor and you get a little bit of salt from that potted meat. Now he called it, I'm going to enunciate so no one misunderstands what I'm about to say. Hobo, Hobo, brains and eggs, because that's what they called it when he was growing up. It was delicious. And then one time my wife had left the house. She had to work or something. So I made the kids dinner. And they're like, what are we going to have, Dad? And I was like, hobo brains and eggs. And they're like, what? I'm like, calm down. Give it time. Scrambled up the eggs, heated up some freaking potted meat, stirred it all together, finished cooking it, put it on their plates. Man, those kids absolutely demolished that. So my wife comes home while they're eating it, and she's like, what are you feeding these kids? And I go, hobo brains and eggs. And she's like, what? I go, it's scrambled eggs and potted meat. And she just turned her nose up at it. And the kids are like, it's really good, Mom. And I go, yeah, Mom, it's really good. Like, you shut your mouth and let me feed my kids what I want. And, excuse me, be nice about it. But yeah, I know we went way off on a tangent.
I'm about to go even farther off.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so 2 things. Well, 3 things, actually. I'm not afraid to admit that that Spam and eggs is not bad.
I have never tried Spam.
Dude, I didn't want to at first either. And it was like when my fiance opened up the can, I was like, I'm not eating that. Like, you'll never get me to eat that. But then she fried some up in a pan with some eggs. And then it kind of just tasted like sausage and eggs. And it almost tasted like kind of like a Chinese sausage in a way. I don't know. I thought it was edible. Wasn't half bad. I will turn my nose up at bologna. Like a bologna sandwich or a fried bologna sandwich. I maybe was like all the lunch meat I really had as a kid, or like a good portion of it. And my dad was always trying to get me to eat like these bologna sandwiches, and that's just not my thing. I don't know. I just always thought like the texture of bologna was just so like mushy and fatty. I don't know. Bologna, I always thought bologna out. No, I won't have it. Okay.
Before I want to interject one more thing.
Yeah.
Braunschweiger. You ever eat Braunschweiger?
No, what is that?
I can't describe it. I used to eat the crap out of it when I was a kid. It comes in a roll, and you just slice it. And you know, the outside wrapper off of it, and you. Anyway, before we go off on a whole food tirade,
maybe I have. Does it come in a U-shaped package, almost like a?
no, it'll just be wrapped in like yellow wrapper, and it's just like
Oh.
a tube about, I don't know, 7-8 inches long, and I don't know. I don't know. Like, I used to eat the crap out of cottage cheese too, and I haven't eaten cottage cheese in a while. I used to love cottage cheese, and I used to like tear up some Braunschweiger, but I could eat it now and think, what was I thinking when I was a kid? I must have been out of my freaking mind. Anyway, we better move on, or we'll talk about food the rest of the show.
I'm taking us way off the rails. I don't know. I just find this story interesting. So there's a few different theories as to where the word hobo comes from. And my favorite is it's from people from New York used to use it as an insult for people either from Hoboken, New Jersey, or they would just say that, like, oh, if you were poor, you're like, oh, you must be from Hoboken, you must be a hobo. So that's where that term comes from, is a slur from the people from Manhattan against the people of Hoboken, New Jersey. That's the version of the story I would like to believe, at least, as to where the term hobo comes from. And then sorry. You got
real quick. At where I work 7-8 years ago, I had to sit through this class, and it was basically talking about the language you use at work. And a guy's like, handicap stems from a thing where people who were disabled and couldn't work would sit on a box and they would hold their cap out and people with money in it. So you shouldn't say the word handicap people anymore. And he gets done with his whole presentation. He's like, anybody got any statements or questions? And I go, I got one. I go, don't you think we tinker with language too much? I was like, do you think that handicapped people didn't, or how did I phrase it? I said, I bet you handicapped people didn't even know they were supposed to be offended by that statement until people like you or somebody else told them they needed to be offended by it. I said, I bet they didn't even know they were supposed to be offended by that. They didn't even know the original source of that word. And then I went on this diatribe about changing the language on all this stuff. We're not dying, we're passing away and all this stuff. And he was like, and then he just kind of, next question. But I was like,
little did you know that was the beginning. Or was that after all the other language changes?
He just talked through so much, and I was just sitting there, and I'm in the state of mind that I'm in now, that I've been in for 15 years. I get in that old man energy creeping up in me. So the stuff just irritates me more. But I was just like, we're really doing this? Because there was a black female that worked on the test floor, and my build stand was very close to the ratio stand. So we would joke around all the time. And I told her what I wanted to do when I walked in the room. I was like, I want you to sit next to me. And she's like, okay. I said, so when we sit down and right before the guy goes to speak, I can go, God, black people make me so uncomfortable, just to start the whole class off with a bang. And she's like, as funny as that would be, she's like, please don't do that. And I go, I'm not going to. I'm just saying how funny it would be. All right. I'll let you go on.
Oh no. I got one more thing. When I was in high school, in my junior year, biology class, we were like dissecting animals at one point. And then for no reason, the teacher just brought in and cooked off for anyone who would eat it a bunch of pig brains. And so me and two other kids ended up trying the pig brains, and I actually ate my plate and dude's plate, who took one bite and didn't want them anymore. So that was probably the craziest thing I've eaten that I can think of off the top of my head as far as like exotic. I mean, there's a place in St. Charles. It's called Tucanos. It's like this Brazilian restaurant where they just bring around meats for days, and they'll have like chicken heart and all kinds of exotic stuff out there sometimes. So I've tried a little bit of like, I'm a little bit adventurous, but I think pig brains probably takes it for me as like craziest things that I'm willing to eat. Anyway, we can get back to like a political topic now if we
There
want.
we go. Yeah,
Oh,
well,
no.
let's talk about
talk about Intel, because I'm real fired up about that.
Yes. I was trying to think of the word, the Intel thing. Let's delve into that a little bit. I mean, I want to preface what we've just talked about. The title of the show is Big Government Republicans. I think it's very fitting for the things that we're going to talk about tonight. And there's a bunch of Republicans and stuff that are just like, but again, the Republicans, there were a bunch of conservatives out there when the government basically owned 60% of General Motors that were all fired up about that. And, oh, God, you're going to ruin the economy and blah, blah, blah. All up in arms. We buy 10% of Intel shares, and they're just like, mum's the word. So please stop being so hypocritical. You go ahead, Brandon.
I just mean it's I don't understand how it's not like classic textbook socialism. And it's only the beginning, because this, for me, kind of came out of left field. Like, I had no idea the government had any fresh. He said fresh meat. I don't know. Sorry, everybody, for losing my train of thought there. Kevin Spacey cracking me up with his quick wit. Kevin asked, "What kind of do you want to know? What kind of meat I like?" And for those who know Kevin, the answer could have been just about anything. I was expecting it not to be an answer we could have said on air, but John, as brave as he is, asked, "What kind, Kevin?" To which Kevin replied, "Fresh meat. That is his favorite kind of meat."
Well said, Kevin.
Anyway, no, the government, like I had no idea that the government was getting ready to take 10% of Intel. And it just it defies every logical thing we know about free market economics and like the way the market, the government manipulation of the market is what causes inflation. It's what causes the booms and busts of certain industries. It's going to cripple any competition for people who want to create new chip developments. Like, you're throwing everything off of the balance scale when you do this as far as chips go. And I know that we've been flirting with this for a long time because we passed the CHIPS Act and we're talking about all this different kind of government investment. We basically pay to protect the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company. Like, the government basically subsidizes their protection right now. And so I'm not saying that we haven't been like dipping our toes in the water, but this is blatant government control of the means of production. I mean, it's nothing else outside of that. And they can say it's for security or this and that or whatever, but that's just not true. The private market would have wanted to sell as many chips as possible and make them as fast as possible to compete against other people making the chip. That's how you get the best possible product at the lowest possible price for consumers. The government coming in and buying up 10% of one of the largest chip, like, not even manufacturers. They're just like the innovative brains, like the innovative brains behind developing new chips. The government owning 10% of that is going to favor that company, making it harder for them to fail. Was I cutting out or am I good? Sorry, I kind of glitched.
Cut out for a second. Keep going, brother. You're good.
Basically, the government owning 10% of Intel is going to make it harder for any other company who's doing the same thing as Intel, which there are other companies. It's going to make it harder for them to compete with what they're doing. And it's going to make them where if they start to fail, the government is going to continue to subsidize them and continue to pump more money into them to make sure they don't fail because we own that stock. So we're already favoring one giant business over competitors and smaller businesses. And we're screwing ourselves even in the long term, because when that business starts to falter, we're going to have to keep pumping more money in to save it, because it's tied to our federal government. I mean, it defies all practices of common sense economics.
Not to mention the fact that Intel has lost $22 billion over the last few years. So we bet on a loser. We bought $400 million worth of shares, I believe.
Well, we didn't buy them. They were gifted to us, but that doesn't matter. if the government should, like, that's what Trump's been bragging about to all these, like, we got $11 billion worth of their stock and we didn't have to pay a dime for it. That doesn't matter.
I think what he's referring to, though, is that money came from the CHIPS Act. So when that bill came out, that money was there and it went, and now they're just like coming in and bragging how they own 10%, but he's acting like it's free. But from what I'm hearing, that money was already guaranteed through the CHIPS Act. And now he's saying it, we got him for nothing. No, it came from the CHIPS Act.
No,
now you're getting 10%.
I haven't delved this deep into it, but I think it was Thomas Massie tweeted out that the CHIPS Act did not give the government permission to buy that stock. And I don't know if they're just using the language in the CHIPS Act to do it or what, but they're already, I read from the America First Post. I don't know, I don't know if it's reliable or not, but apparently Howard Lutnick and the Trump administration are mulling over potentially buying, getting into owning shares of Boeing and Palantir and Lockheed Martin. And here's the thing about Lockheed Martin. The government already subsidizes like 85 to 90% of their business. I mean, it's already basically an arm of the government. I think Trump made that argument, which I'm not disagreeing with, but you don't double down on a bad idea. You don't like, oh, we have a really bad idea. We shell out a lot of money to this one company. You know what we should do? Instead of diversifying and letting the market have a better share of this, you know what we need to do? Double down and own more of that same company. It's like we need to own it. Like, no. What you need to do is have a better bidding process, open up the market to more people able to produce this kind of stuff, and then you won't have to then Lockheed Martin won't be 85. We won't be, then maybe 85% of Lockheed's profits won't come from the federal government. I mean, this is a disaster waiting to happen. This is a socialist wet dream right now. It's the government coming in and buying up shares of large companies.
Think about how awesome it would be, looking at it from their perspective, of being a company that big and then having just guaranteed money roll in nonstop. It disincentivizes them from operating in a manner which is the most profitable, because if you have guaranteed money coming from a government for contracts or whatever, are you going to go out of your way to be the best? Like, they could produce a bunch of faulty weapons that work half the time, and but they've already got their money. It doesn't make them strive to be the best. And it'd just be like, if I came to work and I just sat at my desk all day and did nothing, no one paid attention, I still got my full pay, and I just kept going on, and then suddenly somebody comes around and goes, dude, you just sat at your desk all day. And you're like, yeah, I've been doing it for 3 years. I get a paycheck every week. No one said anything. Why am I suddenly going to jump up out of my chair and go, I should be a more productive member of this business, when I've been able to sit on my lard butt for 3 years collecting a paycheck doing nothing, which is what some government workers do. But I don't work for the government. I work for a private corporation. But same thing. They're not incentivized to be the best, because they've lobbied themselves billions and billions of dollars in government contracts, and they don't have to try hard. But like what you were saying, Brandon, everyone else who wants to try to get in on that suffers, because the government has already picked the winners. And that's socialism, folks. Government picking winners and losers is most definitely a socialist behavior. And it does nothing but it is nothing but a detriment to prosperity. It's a detriment to peace. It's a detriment to liberty when your government does what the Trump administration just does, and then just gets out there and like spikes the football and does a touchdown dance like they've just saved the world. It's like, no, you just ruin things more. You suck.
It's not even necessarily that the government, like, obviously a government subsidizing a business is going to give it a massive, massive leg up. But owning 10%, Like the government owning, a 10% stake in Intel makes it where it'll be a perpetual cycle of bailing them out. Yeah, they're going to have to do, of course, certain things I'm sure there's guidelines and there's certain things that Intel's going to have to do. I'm sure they have people from the CIA and the FBI. They're in touch, or they used to work at one, now they work at the other. It's back and forth. In some form or fashion, there's a connection there. But it does, they just get to do whatever they want now. Because the government will not only did they hinder competition actively, but for the future will ensure Intel make sure it dominates the market at no matter what the cost to the consumer is.
And remember, we talked last week when the Pocahontas and Bernie Sanders and all these people get up in arms. This is how they create monopolies doing this. They could very well create a monopoly if AMD and some of these other companies can't keep up because they're not getting all the funding that Intel will. They'll create a monopoly. Will anybody from the government, besides like Thomas Massie or somebody like him, really ever come out and say anything about it? No. They'll just be like, what are you complaining about? You still get chips for your computer. But some people are like, well, I'd rather have an AMD Ryzen whatever chip in mind, your CPU in mind, but you took that away from us when you decided to own 10%. Now, here's another question that got brought up. Does that mean that they have the power to vote, like make board decisions on how the company operates because they own a significant share in Intel? Will they be able to vote, like board votes, on what direction the company goes in? Because I've heard people say that it doesn't allow them to, they're not voting members with those 10% shares that they own, but I don't believe that.
Well, it doesn't, what I was saying, that's what I was just saying a second ago, is that it doesn't matter if they have like some sort of formal voting process. It's like what happened with Twitter and Facebook. The government is just up in their business. And I'm sure there are some executives at Intel who are willing, because the government's willing to buy up 10% of their shares, or I'm sure there's some connection between the Trump administration and the higher ups at Intel. Like just like it was during the Twitter files. They might not have final say, but they're definitely going to have a sway. They definitely have board members in their pocket, certain executives who probably meet with the FBI and the CIA and people within the Trump administration. They probably have that connection. And that's how this deal, I'm sure that's how this deal even started to come about. Because I saw a thing on X that was from Trump's old Truth Social posts where like a month ago, he was like, the CEO of Intel needs to be fired. He's a super incompetent guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then when they announced that this new Intel deal, Trump was like, named the CEO by name, and he's like, what a great guy. I love that guy, that Tip Lou Tucker, whatever his name is. I love that guy. He's a great guy. It's like, of course you say that now, 1 month later, fired a month ago. Now he's the best CEO in all of the tech industry. Why? Because he caved to your demands. So,
and I'm sure everybody got paid well for that.
Oh, fat bonus checks over at the Intel exec committee board. Yeah, they were going to Benihana's that night, no doubt.
Yeah, again, it's nice to see a lot of people calling this out, but there are an awful lot of supposedly America First people out there again spiking the football on this, and I'm like, and this is where I get the most aggravated because it's so hypocritical. It's like, when are you all going to wake up and call a spade and just say, they did it, it was bad, you're doing it, it's bad, please stop doing it? But nope, we have to play this stupid team sports, and we can't go against the team. God forbid we'd boo our own team and call them out for bad decisions. You know what? That's another thing that kills me, Brandon. Some people get really, like, here in a couple of weeks, football season starts, and people are just going to live it right? Every week, every Sunday, they're living it. They will lose their collective minds if the coach calls the wrong play and the other team intercepts the ball and it screws up the winning drive. The next week, the whole next week at work, they're just having a meltdown. I can't believe Reed called that play. But the government can own 10% of the shares in Intel and go around and spike the football and dance and talk it up, and they're just like, I don't care. Andy Reid made a bad call on third and 12 in that last minute, and it cost the Chiefs the game. What the hell is wrong with that man? It's like, dude, if we keep going, you're not going to be able to afford to own a television and pay the service to watch football, stupid. I get it. Sports is a great way to unplug. I like hockey. I'll watch hockey games. I don't like hockey. I don't let hockey rule me so much. I don't let it play in my head so much that I don't pay attention to anything that our government does. I don't live it like that. And I get it. In today's world, as screwed up as it is, most people want a little bit of form of entertainment just to break away and forget about everything. You need that. Like, I'll play video games in the evening to wind down, right? That's how I wind down. If I'm not out taking photographs or doing something, that's my big wind down. But, if it's late in the evening and I'm not sleepy yet, I'll get on the Xbox and play a little bit, and then I'll go to sleep. I don't, however, go, job schmob, who needs that? I'm just going to stay at home and I'll just stay home and do this, and I'll just play my video game all day, every day with no income coming in, and then blame somebody else when my house gets, taken and I'm out on the street with my wife and my mother and other people, and they're all trying to beat me to death. But I'll just blame it on somebody else. I don't know. It just quit being so wrapped up in the entertainment that you don't see what's going on around you.
Or if you were it'd be one thing also to be like wrapped up in the entertainment and only wrapped up in the entertainment. Like, there's a whole different side to that too. So like, if you and then anytime someone brought up politics or brought up the Republicans or Trump or the Democrats, you just outright from the jump was like, I do not care. I don't know. I don't care. I don't get involved. I don't vote. Like, that's your choice. And there's even anarchists who are like, both sides suck so much that even voting is just is validating the state, and I'm not doing it. So like, there's certain, I get it to a point, right? But what I hate is the people who are super engaged with the NFL. Like, you'll watch every Chiefs game. You'll be mad for 3 days about a bad call that the refs made or like a bad pass that somebody made. You'll be mad for days. And then when someone asks you about politics, or when someone asks you about Trump or Intel or something like that, you then have the nerve to regurgitate just what you heard as the truth, like politics also. Like, it's okay to be an expert on the Chiefs, but don't pretend to be an expert don't pretend to have Trump's back for every single move when you don't even really understand what he's doing, when you don't even know what a tariff is. I mean, you've got people who are just so ignorant, but they're so confident in their political beliefs. Like, they're so confident that either the Democrats are good and Republicans are bad, or Republicans are good and Democrats are bad. When in reality, they spend most of their time focusing on, like, 99.9% of their time not focusing on either side enough. Like, they don't even know enough to to be able to even have this conversation that we're having. Like, neither one of us are experts. We both have full-time jobs and families. Like, so we don't even literally have the time to like become experts, but we pay enough attention to have this conversation. And that's what kills me about the general populace and the distraction era that we live in, is that you don't pretend to know things then. Like, read. Like, I have a surface level knowledge of politics, and I know that. But I would like to believe that it just it's light years better than most of the people who feel super strongly about politics.
Yeah, I like Tom March says, Tom's rides puts a lot of miles on a bike. And I'm talking about a bicycle, not a motorcycle. But Tom will put some miles on a bike, and that's why he does it, because Tom is our state constitution guy. So he knows his stuff. He's well versed, he's well read, but he needs to decompress. So he gets out and he pedals his bike and blows off steam. And I wish I could do that, but someone will be scraping me off the pavement. I know. Now me, I grab Saturday mornings, if it's not super hot and it's horrible, I throw my camera gear in the car. Like, this past Saturday, I drove to Gray Summit, went to the Shaw Nature Reserve. Now, I screwed up. I should have put on my hunting boots and tucked my jeans into my boots and then put the insect repellent on. But I just wore like walking shoes, ankle socks, pair of jeans, t-shirt. It was going to be a beautiful day. Went out, walked trails, and then came home, and I have been miserable 3 nights in a row because I have chigger bites on top of my feet, all around my ankles, up my legs. They hammered me big time. But while I'm in that thing, now here's the funny part. On my way to Shaw Nature Reserve and home, I'm listening to podcasts. I'm catching up on some episodes that I didn't hear during the week on my work commute. But once I get out of that car and I got my camera stuff in my hand and I'm walking, all that exits. I'm thinking about, I got to be quiet. That looks like a great spot to go sit. Oh, I'm going to go back to the car and get the other lens because there's some great landscape shots. Any of those things, just to break away, because I know people who live in politics all the time. And it's like, dude, you have to get away from that. But you have to find that happy medium. Be an informed citizen like the 4 founders wanted you to be, and go out and find something that helps you decompress, helps you blow off some steam or whatever, and have a little bit of that too. But don't live in either world your whole life. Because, I mean, to me, you're asking to burn out. You're just, and then you just end up feeling miserable. But yeah, again, every Friday at work, there's going to be people with Chiefs jerseys on all around the plant. And then I have to make fun of them all because I've never been a Chiefs fan. The only thing I have vowed to do is opening night for the Blues, I will wear my Blues jersey to work. I'll still do my job. And when I come home, I'll still do all my normal things. I won't have myself in that world, not pay attention. I just vowed I'm going to represent for the Blues because people at work are a bunch of communists and most of them don't ever wear hockey stuff, which drives me absolutely bonkers. But anyway, yes, getting back to the point, because man, it has just been rant central tonight. It's been fun. We talk about food. Now we're on football and sports, but to your point, Brandon, yes, it is irritating that someone, and it's not even because it's football season. People have these strong political views and they don't know why. They don't understand the reasoning why they hold it. It's because it's comfortable. It makes them feel comfortable. Yeah. And that's fine for them as long as they're comfortable. Well, if true freedom, true liberty is true freedom and liberty is a little uncomfortable because you are responsible for your actions and there's no social safety nets involved. Now there'll be churches and community to help out, but the government is not there with a check to hand you because you made a bad decision. So it is uncomfortable. But man, think about how comfortable it would be if you can make all your own decisions all the time without having to pay extra fees because of licensing and taxation and all these other things. All the money you could save, all your hard-earned earnings you'd get to keep, and all those things because you're truly a free individual. And that's hard. That makes people uncomfortable, so they'd rather just have Big Brother out there babysitting them the whole time, and that's
yeah. Well, it's just like, I mean, every time any major event happens in the world, everyone just relies, they go to their 1 or 2 people and they catch the slogan. Like, that's it. So like
Yes.
anytime you're like, oh man, I think maybe we've overstretched ourselves in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe, and like maybe we're putting too much pressure on China. You hear this? Well, we need a strong military. Well, look at this guy. He doesn't want a strong military. He thinks we're spending too much money on the military. It's like you don't know. Like you have no idea how much money we've spent in all these regions. You don't know who we took out of power, who we put into power, how they're faring, what kind of, atrocities they're committing on their people. You just stick to your slogan. Like whenever like we were rebounding out of COVID and prices were just going absolutely through the roof. And you had one side yelling, it's Biden's fault. And you have one side yelling, it's transitional. And you'd have a couple people who would be like, it's Trump's fault. And those people were actually right, except they don't even know why. They'll like the people who blamed the economy and all those inflation prices on Trump, except for the few libertarians, were blaming it on like, they would never blame the CARES Act for why prices just like, they would never blame the $10 trillion we needed to print for like government supplied PPE and COVID tests and vaccines and like all of that. The trillions and trillions we spent on that, they would not blame that. They would just say Trump, like Trump is the reason inflation is so bad, but they would never pinpoint what it is. And that's what drives me nuts about like the political opinions in America today, from like 85 to 90% from like most of the Democrats and most of the Republicans. They just have they go to Jesse Waters or Greg Gutfeld or Rachel Maddow or whoever's over at CNN now. I don't even know who's over there anymore, but that lady and Kristen Welker on MSNBC. Well, maybe it's
MS Now.
MS Now.
Come on.
They get their slogan and then they go out and regurgitate it, and they feel the passion as if they read a novel on it. You know what I mean? They have the passion as if they read Enough Already, Time to End the War on Terrorism by Scott Horton. They have that level of passion on it, but then they just have no clue what they're talking about it. Right. You have Trump derangement syndrome, Trump infatuation syndrome,
Yeah. Yeah. Again, nothing is quite as irritating as someone who just, and it doesn't matter if it's politics or whatever. I mean, again, going back to COVID was one of the most frustrating times for a lot of us who want liberty. And the people generally on the anti-Trump side, it wasn't necessarily inflation. It was he didn't do enough. He wasn't draconian enough and just locked down the whole country for months on end to protect everyone. That's what a lot of people were upset about. And then the lockdowns went so long in their states that they got tired of it. And Trump became the easy target because the media and everybody was like, it's his fault. And then they praised the governors who sent sick people to nursing homes and murdered them and gave them a spot on television every night to talk about his things that he did. And then you have the Gavin Newsoms and the rest of them. And then the governor of what was it, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, that said the Constitution was above his pay grade. But it all pivoted to Trump. The Newsom, Whitmer, the worst of the worst in COVID, the most draconian people get reelected. Whitmer's Michigan, you couldn't go outside and cut your grass, but her husband got to pull around a lawnmower and go cut the grass at their other places. So it was just, but that was such a turbulent time that Trump was an easy target. Now, again, he deserves a lot of blame, right? He did the whole Operation Warp Speed that he still continues to brag about. The 15 days to slow the curve. He kept Fauci in power that whole time. Should have kicked him to the curb. And a whole bunch of other things. And the CARES Act, all that stuff called Massey a second-rate a third-rate grandstander because he dared to show up to DC and force a vote. And so all these things, he had a lot to blame, but there were a lot of governors and a lot of other people causing an awful lot of heartache and deaths of despair that skyrocketed, and the loss of businesses, the shutting down of businesses because they couldn't make enough profit, skyrocketing. And it all just went to Trump. And I'm like, yeah, you should be mad at him for a lot of stuff, but your tyrannical health department folks and your tyrannical governors and your mayors or your county executives, you're giving them all the pass. And what you're talking about earlier, Brandon, just focusing on one person. It's like, no, he did not come into the state of Michigan and tell Whitmer face to face, you got to lock down and you got to be the Stalin of the United States. No, he didn't do that. Now, he did jab at, oh my God, Kemp and, oh my God, the governor of Florida, DeSantis. He jabbed at them for opening too early and kind of said, oh, they're going to be dead bodies everywhere. But he also didn't force all the states to do what they did. But it all just went to Trump because we got a presidential election. And everybody just wanted it to be over and go back to quote unquote normal, which we never did. And they all those tyrants, for the most part, got to keep their job. And it's like you literally had no focus. You bought whatever the media told you to because you were scared to death. They scared you to death. You bought it. And I don't know. Yeah. Shady J says no one could buy seeds, flags. You couldn't plant a garden. All that stuff. Also, I want to see if I can find this talking about tyrants. Let me see if I believe the gentleman. Okay, when is this from? I want to see where this article's from. 5 days ago. Speaking of tyrants, so St. Peters, Missouri, a gentleman by the name of Chris Bank, for 4 summers has tended rows of sunflowers in his St. Peter's front yard. What started as a hobby has now turned into an ongoing legal battle with city officials who say he's breaking the law. Now, he's breaking the law because of the flower to grass ratio, right? He started growing these sunflowers during COVID to brighten people's day. They would drive past his house and see all the sunflowers and make them feel a little better while they were going through this horrific catastrophe created by tyrants. And he continues to grow them. But 4 years in a row, a legal battle because the government, the city government, has nothing better to do than to come up with a grass to flowers ratio for your yard. Some moron in some seat of power somehow said, I know, it's like a make work thing. I have to stay relevant. What am I going to come up with? I'm pretty good with math. I got it. Flowers to grass ratio. You can only have so many flowers in your yard and so much grass in your yard. Break that line, you're going to court. And everybody's like, bro, bravo, this will generate revenue. And then the whole city can be like a homeowners association. And then we'll have people snitching on each other because they have too many flowers in their yard. This is what you get.
So, not that I agree with it in principle, but I do want to have the conversation since this got brought up, because I have heard about that story a ton of times. Because that's my local news up here. Do you get what's your local news where you're at? Are you still 245? Are you technically the St. Louis area?
So we can get it here. A lot of people end up with like Channel 13 out of Jefferson City, maybe Channel 8 out of Columbia, because we're like right
11.
in between.
ABC 11 is Columbia too, right? Or do you get that one, or you have?
I don't know, because I don't even have local TV. I have streaming services, and that's it.
Right. No, I was just curious, but I've heard about that story. So, like, if you and I both had properties next to each other, is there any limit to like what I could do to my property that would like, because it is true that like if me and you both bought like 10 acres and then all of a sudden I decided to turn my 10 acres into a junk lot and just like lined my entire yard up with trashed cars, your property value would decrease just based on the number of people who wouldn't want to live next door to a broke down auto shop. But that really shouldn't matter, because that's the principle behind this rule. That's the principle behind all of these rules, is that when someone lets their property get out of hand, it affects the property value of all the other houses around them. But that really shouldn't matter, right? Or am I missing something here? Like that would kind of make a difference, or am I'm just begging the question.
Well, I'll give you my take, Brandon, because I don't think property values would mean squat to anybody except for property taxes. I think these rules stem from property taxes because if they feel like someone's decreasing the property value in a certain area because their yard looks a certain way, they're looking at it as a loss of revenue. Oh my God, Kevin Spacey. But I think that's where this stems from. It's just like permits. Like you wanna add a room onto your house. It's not about safety. It's they want to know that you did it, so your property valuation goes up and they get more tax revenue out of you year after year. It's not about safety. They don't care. It's just if you sneak something in on it and they don't catch it, they lost out on tax revenue. And I believe that's the same thing.
Well, I think HOAs tend to enforce things like this. You're right. This one in particular is the city, but you'll see an HOA get way more aggressive than the city will. I bet the HOA is probably the one who alerted the city or the one who gave them a notice first. And so unless there's just some sort of logic I'm not like that I haven't thought about or that I'm missing. I mean, if these rules, like if what you're saying is true and that these rules are based on increasing values of properties for property tax assessments, then yeah, then it's totally bogus. Then the government should have no standing to tell people based on trying to raise the value of their property. But if this is like a homeowners association driven thing where they're doing it to protect everyone else's value of their property, like basically, if I devalue my property enough where it causes your property to be devalued, that's still not a violation of the non-aggression principle because I didn't affect your property. I just changed its value by ruining my own property. Like that's how you would, do you see it that way or?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's still, I think, I don't know that it's so much about value as it is aesthetics because
just a nuisance to the homeowner, like
yeah,
to
because
the HOA.
Yeah, because there's I mean, I'm going to say this. There may be people on here that listen to this or watch this at some point that belong to HOAs. I think if you are in an HOA, you're out of your mind because you just have Chads and Karens looking for a reason to bust your chops. And they make up the most ridiculous rules. Well, if you build a playhouse in your backyard for your kids, it has to have the same color siding and it has to look like your house. And your mailbox has to sit here. You can't fly this flag. You can't put this yard sign up. All these things. I think if you belong to an HOA, you're out of your freaking mind. But again, I think on an HOA standpoint, I feel like it's still arbitrary. I think for whatever reason, these people don't have the ability anymore to be individuals and they just want to be like everybody else and they want to have this competition like, I'm going to one-up this guy, but then this other guy's like, I'm going to make up a rule so this guy can't one-up me. And it just seems like a bunch of people having a peeing match in their yards to see who's the most awesome. Now, again, on the city side, I feel like it's arbitrary. I feel like this thing has been set up in our heads. And again, there's people that don't live in HOAs that want to do this whole keeping up with the Joneses. And I think that drives a lot of this, these rules like, oh, you can't have, like now in town, you can't even have an unlicensed car in your driveway. It has to be inside a building, unseen. Why? If the parts are not falling off the car and rolling into my neighbor's yard, who cares? If it's off the street, if somebody hops a curb and smashes into my unlicensed car, or maybe it's not insured at the moment because I'm not driving it, and then you want to put that on me because that guy was driving too fast and hopped the curb and smashed into my car. So now I have to make up all these other stupid rules. But yeah, Owensville passed that on how many years ago? You can't have. It used to be you couldn't be on the street. Now you can't even. It can't even be visible in your driveway. It must be parked inside the garage. It's like what difference does it make? And I think, and this does stem from zoning, these stupid zoning codes and stuff that these cities buy into that come from like the international uh, brotherhood of codes and standards and stuff. They buy into these. They buy the books. They look at them like, oh, we could pass these. To where if an inspector's walking up the street and let's say for some reason your downspout has pulled loose from your gutter and is tilting out, like if an inspector drives around and sees that, if you're not abiding by the building codes, you could get a penalty for that. And it's like, why are we paying someone to drive around town looking for violations? You're literally paying his salary in hopes of enough that he will go around and find enough violations to pay his salary. Like, what are you doing? The math doesn't math. So this whole thing with property values, whether you're an HOA or you're just living in St. Peter's, I think it's all arbitrary. I think it's a way of people, again, we got this keeping up with the Joneses mentality, which seems like you don't want to be an individual anymore. And that just seems like a really awful way to live your life. Like I would want to, if especially if I just had the money, I would make this house look so different that I would become some kind of tourist attraction in Owensville. Like I'll give you a quick example. In Bland, Missouri, a town that's like 6 miles away from me, they were getting on to him because the outside of his building wasn't up to snuff. The paint was peeling off. So he literally painted the outside purple just to drive them nuts. And he got nicknamed the Purple Palace. And he did it to make a statement. Like, yeah, I painted it. Now what do you got to say? Because the paint was peeling and everybody was complaining. It's like, it's not your business. It's his business. If it doesn't look enticing enough that you want to walk in the door, that's on him.
Right.
Yes, and he painted that thing bright purple, all 4 walls outside. And they called it the Purple Palace. Yep.
Like, it's one thing if you drive by and you're like, oh man, that house looks run down. But then it's one thing to have that opinion. And then another thing to force the government to go make that guy make changes. To like use the government as a means of force to force someone to paint their house. So good on him. Paints it purple. Just to
heck yeah.
Get right to him.
Stick your thumb in the eye of the jerks, you know?
Topic I want your opinion on.
Okay.
We have military deployment in the United States. Washington, D.C. crackdown. Your thoughts?
See, and here's the thing. I've heard statements, and I haven't really read up, so that's on me, that the homicide rate in D.C. was going down. So this deployment of National Guard troops and stuff in DC was not necessary. I know that if Congress says it's okay, I believe this is what I'm hearing. If Congress okays it, then they can do it. And I know they've named off a bunch of cities that this may spread to. St. Louis is in that mix. Of course, Chicago, Detroit, a whole lot of other cities. Names have been mentioned too, and I'm just like, what exactly are we doing? And why are we doing this? The government coming in and sending the National Guard in just because the homicide rate is up or is high, and DC's been awful. Oh my God. DC's been awful for a long time, and now all of a sudden it's a problem. And now they're talking about, and it's almost like, to me, this is a political move. This is one of these posturing moves to look extra tough before the primary so the Republicans can get out and say, yeah, we're trying to get all these illegals and we're trying to get the crime rate down. Look, the Democrats don't want your crime rate to go down. I feel like this is like political posturing. But if this does spread and they keep doing it more and more and more, it's not a good look. It looks tyrannical as hell to me. And to me, I think the people of those cities should be putting pressure on the mayors who seemingly don't seem to care about the crime rate. They want to brag about other stuff they did. It's like some other program they've created or handout or tax that they've came up with to tax the citizens more. And then they want to talk about defunding the police or bad mouthing the police, day in and day out. And they don't want to look at the crime problem because that could really upset some of the Democrat voters in their towns. So this almost seems like one of those moves that's like, look, the Republicans are really serious about getting tough on crime. The Democrats aren't. And that's kind of what it seems to me. But it also seems tyrannical at the same time. I'm not a fan. Now, if there were major riots going on and property was getting destroyed, by all means. I'm not real sure about this whole thing just because the homicide rate's still high. And I mean, because let's face it, you think they could go out and brag like, oh, we found this guy. He had 2 unlicensed handguns. Who freaking cares, man? You still haven't released anything about the Epstein files. You think I care about a guy with 2 unregistered handguns? Seems like you're just, and again, you could be right too earlier. This could just be a whole thing of a constant distraction away from things that are not being done. Again, the Epstein files is one. And it's like, I don't care about somebody with an unlicensed gun. Could give 2 cares less. Get me the pedophiles and put them and hang them in the town square. That's what I want to see. I want to see public executions of pedophiles. I don't care that somebody stayed past their work visa. I don't care that someone has 2 unlicensed handguns. Don't care. I want pedophiles to be rounded up and punished. That's what I want. And so I think this is all just a bunch of bluster and look how tough we are. And yet they're not tough. They're sissies because they caved and they won't tell us anything about what's going on with the big fat pedophile ring and all these important people in high places.
Now, I don't know how true this is, but I know that there was a lawsuit filed against some jurisdiction because these big cities are hiding their crime stats. Like they're manipulating the crime stats to make it look like they're going down. I'm not exactly sure. They've been saying that for a while. I've heard that from other sources for a while, that these big cities just either aren't reporting to the FBI, like they got rid of certain requirements, so they're not reporting as much. So then the FBI data is going to show that there's less homicide because they're not reporting it. And I can, like, in St. Louis, it's like cracking down on the violent crime in St. Louis would be, like, in theory, and in theory only, an easy task, because all of the gangs are either part of one single street or on different blocks, and they're not secretive about it. You have 16-year-olds walking around, like walking down the street constantly, or like literally standing guard with AK-47s, like with assault rifles, with, their handguns. I mean, it's not like there are carjackings, and like someone might be, there might be a high-speed chase where someone wrecks the car and people get hurt. But by and large, the crime that happens in St. Louis is like gang-related, or just someone basically willfully ignorant about being in a bad neighborhood at a terrible time of night. Like, you really have to go looking for trouble in St. Louis to find it. And so all the people, like, super fired up that they're cracking down on the crime, it's just not like it, in particular for St. Louis. I can't speak for like all these other major cities, but for St. Louis, it's like if you went downtown to Busch Stadium and then got in your, like, parked, let's say 6 blocks away, and then got in your car, got on either Highway 70 or 64, and then got out of town, you're almost never going to have a problem. It's when you go to a bad part of town really late at night on a street you probably shouldn't have been on, that because usually it's like these these gangs operate by taking over these one-way streets. And so, like, unless you're on a one-way street that's named after a state, or if you're on like Lucas and Hunt, that's a really bad like road stretch to be on late at night. MLK Boulevard late at night. Like, if you're really asking for trouble, you might find it. But for the most part, like, it's not a bring in the feds ordeal. Because if the people of that city, if the citizens of that city were that passionate about it, they would be in the streets. Like, if the people of St. Louis were that passionate about cracking down on the crime in St. Louis, they would protest. They would say, why isn't the city doing more? When is the last time you've seen that in a big city? Let me ask you that, John. Have you ever seen a big city protest about bringing crime down? Or is it usually protesting the police that stop the crime?
Yeah, to me, it seems like it's the out and the people that don't, the people who are out there saying, hey, this is our problem, we should deal with it. They don't get the airtime. They don't get that big public platform to speak from because the race baiters are out there and taking up all the airtime and doing all that stuff. So it's, again, St. Louis isn't a great place that I want to hang out much in certain areas. Like, anytime I go into St. Louis, I'm still like, I'm not, I got my head on a swivel. I'm not going to lie. But you're right. Unless you go down to like Bannevanner and Samuel Shepherd and MLK and Broadway used to be kind of bad. There was some other Kings Highway used to not be so good. Cherokee, but some of these other streets, they're known that, I mean, the History Channel was running a show about gangs all across the country. St. Louis was MLK and one other street, cross streets, 2 different gangs, a boatload of violence, and you stay away from those areas.
Yeah.
Even in the
here's
daytime.
What I'll say. You shouldn't be bringing in the military to crack down on crime in a major city until that city elects a Republican mayor. Because you can say whatever you want. Like, I have my qualms for days about Republicans, and I'm not even saying this is necessarily a good thing, but Republicans are tougher on crime. They are. And they will have tighter sentences, less people booked and released. Like, the policies that enable more crime to happen, the Republicans stand against. And so until St. Louis elects a Republican mayor, I wouldn't be sending in the National Guard, because it just proves to you they're not that serious. The people, the citizens of the city, aren't that serious about cracking down on the crime, at least not to the point where they want the military involved, where they want the National Guard brought in, or they want deployed units. It's just such ghoulish overkill. Like, it has no place right now. You're fighting, like, again, they're going to areas where they're not wanted by the people, like overwhelmingly decided by the people. So until the people of that city want to see the change happen, I think it's not, whether or not it's constitutional, like, it matters obviously, but for this particular instance, it wouldn't even matter if it's constitutional or not. You shouldn't do it unless it's what the people, like, if you're going to be this populist president, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to incite something, and then again they can turn around and go, see, these Democrat cities are terrible, and it's like another way to just divide the people and get them fighting Republican versus Democrat. So now we've changed the topic from illegal immigration to homicides and crime rates. Now, and again, getting people all stirred up and not paying attention that there's certain pedophiles that are going to run around without any consequences, and we're not going to do anything about it. But hey, we'll go out there and get rid of the guy that had 2 unlicensed handguns. And it's like, okay, yeah, but it's like they're trying to get the people stirred, and then you get them stirred up about something, and then it turns into a political topic. And then at the midterms, they can talk all about it. The Democrats will say how racist Trump is, and the Republicans will say,
put that one up. We gotta shout this one out. This is from our friend of the show, Tom Martz. Says, perhaps we should send the CIA for regime change in these Democrat-run cities. They are effective. According to Jeffrey Sachs, there's been like over 50 attempted CIA coups. Not impossible. Color-coded revolution. That's our bread. That's the CIA bread and butter right there.
That's right in our wheelhouse. I think we could just run a bunch of coups in cities. But yeah, I don't know. We could just have mini Ukraines everywhere. And just go ham. Well, I have to go back to hear what Brand. I couldn't care less about what John said. Good old Kevin Spacey. But yeah, I just I don't know until the people get fed up and say we don't want to live in these crime-ridden areas, and those people arm themselves and start taking. Because at this point, I'm like, listen, if your streets are run by gangs who are fighting other gangs and causing problems, if every citizen on those streets armed themselves and came outside one night and said, y'all need to go find a different place to do this, it would change. Because they're like, oh, because they wouldn't be weak and they wouldn't be easily picked on. I don't see that the police coming in and having a stronger presence is going to eliminate this issue. I think if the people would arm themselves and show the bullies that they won't be bullied anymore, and I know that seems like I'm calling for violence, and I'm not necessarily so, but if you get every single man and woman armed and gangs are trying to do stuff and they all come out and they're all holding their rifles or their handguns or whatever, like, nope, not tonight, boys.
Well, that's why these gangs operate on these streets and on these blocks. And then, to your point, exactly why. Because most of the people on that block are either family, like close family friends, or family. So you'll have like two different sets of cousins on one block and then all of their friends and family. So then let's say you have 16 houses or 18 houses on like one particular block of one street. 8 or 9 of them are probably related and or have some sort of like those kids grew up together and they're the gang members, the kids, and maybe some of the older uncles are involved, and it's all like, if you would go out to like, let's say like what you're talking about, right, where like the people who want to make the change go out in the streets, you'll have like 3 or 4 out of 10 houses that aren't affiliated with the gang on the street in some form or fashion. And so they basically just taken over the whole street. And if you don't go on that street, you're not affected. And so all the people off of that street aren't, why would they care? You know what I mean? If the bad street was like 4 or 5 blocks away and the entire street, but do you get what I'm saying though? Yeah. Like, the reason that you don't have a bunch of armed people in the streets fighting back is because the gang has contained themselves to where they know everyone on the street. And so the people that you're looking for to uprise against, they don't live in those neighborhoods.
Yeah, they moved out.
They moved out.
Yeah. Yeah, so Tom makes another good point. If they arm themselves, hopefully they're a better model of rights exercising than Bubkas and his wife. And, oh my God. Why is the guy's name escaping me now? McCloskey and his wife, who had the most horrible trigger discipline showing when she was outside with her prop pistol that didn't even work. Finger on the trigger, waving it around. And, so hopefully they have a little bit better trigger discipline and a little bit better knowledge of how a safe operation of firearms and stuff like that.
I don't remember if we mentioned it on this show, but like 2 or 3 weeks ago, he got his assault rifle back. It made the news. Which
should have never had it. Yep, should have never. I mean, here's the thing: why is no one in trouble for taking the wife's gun and taking an inoperable gun and making it operational so that they get buster chops? The gun wouldn't fire. They had to take it apart and fix something to make it a gun that would fire a round. Nothing. How does that just saw a clip about this on Crowder. Scotland girl armed with axe and knife. I didn't see that one, but
It's in this girl in, I guess it's Scotland. I knew it was somewhere in the UK. So you know how they have the Pakistani or the immigrant rape problem?
Yep.
Like the immigrants come in and they're doing they're having cultural issues, I'll say, in England. Well, this 14-year-old girl walks around with a knife and an axe now because I guess, again, I haven't seen the video of it, but I guess she's got a little sister. And so she like carries this knife and this axe around, and she made this video where she's like carrying these things around, or maybe someone recorded her because she was walking around with the knife and the axe. And so now she's like, the political games have started where one side's like, oh my gosh, she's got the knife and the axe, she's a terrorist. And the other side is like, this is what England has devolved to now, where a 14-year-old girl with an axe to protect herself is a terrorist. The European mind would not be able to comprehend like a rural town in Texas's level of arms.
They wouldn't even be able to, comprehend a rural town in Missouri. You got some of these small towns, bro. There's dozens of guns in a house. Like, yeah, we don't. Well, and it's the thing. They're like, why do you have this? It's like, what we also don't have? We also don't have a bunch of rapists running around snatching up little girls everywhere. And so, yeah, England, you guys can make fun of us all you want about our love of guns, but we also don't have groups of people who are snatching teenage girls and raping them and passing them around. We don't have that because if you tried to do that around here, you'd have a hole in your guts. So you can make fun of us for our love of firearms, but we also don't have huge rape gangs running around and then our government acting like it doesn't happen and it doesn't exist. There was somebody from the UK that was trying to make a documentary about it. Man, they did not like that. The UK government did not like the fact that he was doing all this and looking this up. Let's see. But we have had great attorney generals in the state. Funny how actual rights violations against the people aren't that important. Yeah. And so, yeah, Eric Schmidt now working for the Trump administration. And now we have this other.
Schmidt's a senator.
Oh, sorry. Andrew Bailey. My bad.
Bailey.
Epstein would disagree. All right. You do have a point, Tom. But we don't have, I don't think we have gangs of people like the UK does. That just we have.
They're a lot better at hiding it if they are, because, like you said, most Americans with guns would not be standing for this kind of gang activity happening. Like we were talking about a second ago, that particular type of gang activity would not be happening.
I wonder. I don't know anything. Just bringing her. I don't really know much about this new Catherine Hanaway.
I was about to bring that up. I had never heard that name before, but I'm not.
I don't know much about her. I'm assuming since, the governor appointed her, it's not. I want to say I've heard her name. Before. Former federal prosecutor. Oh, okay. That's why. Hanaway was the first and only woman to ever serve as Speaker of the Missouri House of Representatives. I knew I'd heard her name before. She ran twice unsuccessfully for statewide office, losing to Democrat Robin Carnahan for Secretary of State in 2004 and finishing fourth in the Republican primary for governor in 2016. So she's not going to be worth a hoot either. So, I mean,
no, a former Missouri Speaker of the House, they have a terrible track record of getting anything done or doing anything important. I will say, though, in about 2 to 3 years, look for her to either become a senator or transportation secretary, or who knows. There is no better stepping stone in the United States than Attorney General for Missouri. I mean, it's better than the Vice President of the United States.
How did we become the farm team for the federal government lately?
Dude, it's the farm team. It's the way of Missouri politics, and here's why I think so. We've been so Republican since 2016 that when you campaign in Missouri, you say all of the things. I've been talking about this during the 2024 cycle a lot. The big things were crack down on Chinese farms, crackdown on immigration. Like, the issues were not Missouri specific at all. It was federal issues.
Yeah, they were riding the coattails of the presidential campaign.
Right. So then when Eric Schmidt was attorney general, his lawsuits were national based. Like, he's joining lawsuits to go after like Twitter back when it was before it was X. He was filing lawsuits to go after them. You have Andrew Bailey, who sued China for like, what was it, $20 billion or something stupid. I mean, that's the heart of Missouri politics, though. Like, if you're in a more bluish state, or if you have like if there's more balance, like if the governor's not winning the race by 12 points for like Republican, then you have to campaign and you have to act more moderate. You know what I mean? Not saying that that's better, but you have to pretend to be more like, not pretend. Well, they do pretend. All of the politicians mostly pretend, but they have to, like, your policy positions have to be more centrist versus hard line Republican. And so when you win in Missouri, you already campaigned on the hard line Republican things. You didn't have to make the Democrat concessions. You didn't have to go centrist at all. So then they're a great pool to pick from for a Republican administration, because they already have campaigned on the national issues for the Republicans. And same thing with U.S. Senator. Like, as Attorney General, you're going to run on the exact same things that you're going to run for Senate on. You're going to crack down on China. You're going to crack down on immigration. So it's the same. You get to play the same game to get up there. That's why I think it is.
And I think it goes to prove the point that some of us have been trying to make for a long time, is that kind of lends to the title of the show this evening, is boatloads of big government Republicans in this state. And you don't get to go and be in the Department of Justice or getting some position in a higher seat of power in Washington, D.C. without being big government. You're not going to get Ron Paul types being brought into whatever, seat, whatever position. No. You're going to be, you're going to have to be the big government Republican. You're going to have to be the big piece of crap, basically. The one that talks a big game about being constitutional and being a conservative and saying that you believe in this and you believe in that, but then you bow to the lobbyists and you parrot all the Trump stuff, and then they're suddenly like, hey, would you like a cabinet position in my administration, since your lips and nose are so brown that you have just done everything. Oh, Tom with another great comment here. We call our gang activity Congress.
Facts.
Tom Martz Kevin Spacey's putting up things that I can't say on the radio. Tom Martz is they're funny, but I can't say them on the radio. Tom Martz is saying he's just out here spitting facts. Yeah. Like I said, she first and only woman Speaker of the House of Representatives in Missouri. And that's why she got the nod, because I'm sure she's big government Republican. Kehoe is big government Republican. And so she just thinks that she's he just thinks she's the bee's knees. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, Brandon. I believe this will be a stepping stone, or this will be an attempted stepping stone for her to climb the political ladder and try to get herself into D.C. And folks, those of you listening here in the state of Missouri, this is another of many wake-up calls. When you hear these Republicans talk, and they're saying all the catchphrases like Brandon was talking about a minute ago, saying all the catchphrases, riding the coattails of what the key phrases that the president, during the presidential election, the things that are rolling around. Rest assured, those people are looking for higher office. Excuse me. They are not in Missouri to do what's best. They are not in the Missouri House or Senate to do what's constitutional, to forward progress us into more liberty. No, They're looking at Senate, they're looking at Congress, the House, they're looking at some other, seat of power, some cabinet position, whatever. They do not have an interest in being a constitutionally sound representative, senator, governor, whatever. So when you hear them mimic, especially like in the years of a presidential run, if you hear them mimic what the Republican candidate for president is saying, then to me, that just says, our state Republican party, the people who had the state Republican Party are in lockstep with the people at the national level. They're spreading this BS from top to bottom, and they're basically telling the people who are Republicans or are in the Republican Party in Jefferson City, and they're telling them, if you do and say all these things, if you run your campaign like this, you also may have a shot at being a big turd in the toilet in DC. So KS is on the Epstein list. That's why he's keeping it under wraps. Now, who is KS? I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank here. Tom, who is KS? But yeah, anyway, Missouri is a breeding ground for big government Republicans, and the people are soaking it up, and they're electing them and then clapping like retarded seals when they get moved up. Like Bailey, all the congratulations going out to Bailey. It's like, what did he do that was so awesome here in the state that you all are like treating him like royalty? What, because he gets to go be co-director or something for the FBI? Is he going to be? Is he going to help cover up the Epstein thing too? I guess there to run cover.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. I'm just
part of it. I don't know if this has anything to do with it or not. But like you were talking about a minute ago, this is not the National Guard. This is the FBI. The FBI is looking to expand heavily into St. Louis, and having a guy from Missouri as the deputy director of the FBI would help with that. But I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Maybe they just again, maybe they liked him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure he says and does all the big government Republican things.
Yeah, he's definitely he's a yes man. He's for sure. You're getting absolutely zero pushback from that. I coined this term though. So whenever your political beliefs are just based on the catchphrases from the partisan politicians, that's called sloganism. So like you're a sloganist if your political beliefs just come from the catchphrases of your favorite politicians and not from any deep research or any factual basis. That's a sloganist. And that's what I feel like 80 to 90% of Americans are. They're partisan sloganists.
Yeah, and you know what's to me, what's sad is, I mean, I went to a public school. I got indoctrinated. I believed all this stuff. I snapped out of it. I honestly believe that most people can snap out of it. I think they can become individuals who can think for themselves and be better informed and make good decisions and not have to depend on government. I believe most Americans could do that. I really believe that, because I believe there's still something innate inside most people as individuals that we truly want to just be left alone, right? I think even if they parrot the stupid stuff because it makes them friends and it makes them feel like they belong, I think deep down inside most of those people would still enjoy freedom more than they'd like to admit. It's just getting them to get to that, giving them that confidence to say, listen, man, you don't understand how many people out here are going to support you if you just speak the truth. Yeah, it's not going to be like people all over the internet like, woohoo. But you're going to have a lot of people coming up going, man, thanks for saying that. I didn't have the guts to say it, but you said it. It happens all the freaking time. Somebody gets fed up. They speak their mind. They speak the truth. And then suddenly people are just coming up to them on the street, in the store, like, thank you so much. And it just reinforces that. You just got to have a little bit of spinal cord. Now, you don't have to say everything. I am completely okay with people who do their own research and come out with a different conclusion. That's opposite of mine. I will give you way more credit and I will give you way more respect because at least you tried to do it. A lot of people don't try to do it. They've been conditioned to think that these people on CNN and MS Now and Fox are journalists. They're not. They're corporate entertainers and they're propagandists and they're just corporate mouthpieces. But just do a little work. 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. And suddenly you're going to go down a rabbit hole one night. It's going to be 11 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. You're like, oh my God, I've been on YouTube watching this documentary. I have to get to sleep. And suddenly something snaps in your brain and you're like, oh boy, I've been wrong a lot. I haven't given up on the American public just yet because I've too many times I get to that point where I'm just like, bah, and then I'll just start seeing people like, man, what the heck's going on? What? And you see this little groundswell and you're like, okay, we're not completely lost yet. Now, it keeps going the way it's going. That's the problem. We're running out of time for enough people to get up and go, this is ridiculous. Why are we doing this? Let's stop it. There's just not enough of those people. Too many people have to. Tom always says that he has a case of not needing to be liked. He doesn't care if people like him or not. And I think more people need that. I think more people need that case of, I don't care if you like me or not. I'm going to say this. You may not like it, but I'm going to speak my mind. And I'm going to say things that should have been said a long time ago. I think more people need that Marxist mentality of going around like, I don't feel the need to be liked. It's and Shady J, I don't know much about the Smith-Mundt Act. That one's not ringing a bell. But yeah, I don't know. I want it, at times I just want to give up on the American public and go, these people are not going to get it. But then there's a groundswell from COVID. There was a lot of people that got their worlds turned upside down and figured it out. And then something else comes along and you see people like you'll see another big group of people snap out of it. Now, you hope they continue down that path and they build on that. Not everybody will. They'll go back to their normal scheduled programming and go right back on. But there are people that remain on the forefront and continue fighting. So as much as I enjoy being a pessimist because I do the show once a week on American politics, I haven't quite given up on the public yet, but there's a very good chance I'll be there one day. I'll just say, and just throw my hands up. I don't know.
I'm pretty close, man. I'm pretty close, dude. Well, it's just that there's no real revolt against any of it. Like like you were hoping that the Epstein thing was going to be the big one, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it is.
It's not going to do
they're obviously in my echo chamber on X hasn't given up on it. Like I follow the 2%, the libertarians, and they haven't given up on it. But for the most part, dude, like the conservatives, even ones that I liked before and ones that I was starting to grow on me, like Matt Walsh and Charlie Kirk, they're so all bought in. And like their supporters are bought in, Trump supporters are bought in. I just don't see it. Like I don't see the revolt coming anymore. I don't know what else. I don't like Donald Trump, I guess in a way was kind of supposed to be the revolt. Like that's what it felt like, right? Whenever we voted for him, and like I did not vote for him. But whenever people voted for him, and that was not me trying to shame you or anything. But
no, I get
it. The people who voted for him in 2024, he was supposed to be that kind of like wake up reckoning. Like he did okay in his first term, but this term is like for the people. And he's just let everyone in the libertarian circle completely down and still has like 85% support from his Republican base. I mean, there's no faltering them. He can literally perform socialist acts, bring in military troops. I mean, there's nothing he can do that's going to lower his approval rating below 80% among Republicans. And so it just doesn't seem like where's our revolt coming from? Where are the people for it?
I guess we have to get like Argentina. Like we have to get to that depth and to have our
That's what
Malay moment. I
that's
think
what
that's I think
like
that's what it is.
when the checks literally can't be cashed. Like when the government can no longer write you a social security check, whenever the government can no longer to afford to pay the insurance companies for Medicare and Medicaid. Like when the dollars are out, or we've printed so many new dollars that milk is $15 a gallon at the store. Maybe if gas got up to $10 a gallon, people would start to realize, hey, maybe we can't continue down this path. But like right now, like food, groceries are at like 125% inflation from like 2017 or 2018. That's not a fact. There's like a ton of like your average groceries are almost like 100% markup from like 2017, 2018 period. And so where's the revolt? I don't know. I'm glad you still have some faith because I'm willing to come on here every week and join you. But man, it's getting harder and harder to believe that like people are going to start waking up and like actually calling out Trump, like the majority of Republicans, to be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be buying chip companies as a government. Maybe.
I think too that now, the internet and social media being what it is, the amount of paid influencers that get on social media and they make these quick posts, it gets a lot of views, and it's definitely not helping because those people, the people that see it and interact with it a lot, feel like they're not, if they're having some doubts, their doubts aren't well founded. Because here's this big person who's really popular in social media saying the things that I generally agree with, right? And they're not like there's not enough of the of other influencers or people that are really popular that they would maybe follow along with that go, this is stupid. So and I'm not saying that you have to we have to get rid of paid influencers. People still have to pay attention and think for themselves, but I think the paid influencers and the people of their ilk are not helping our cause because they will say whatever and it draws people in and they feel like, oh, well, if this guy's a huge guy and he's really popular on the internet and I agree with him, then I guess we're doing okay still. We haven't gone astray. And it's like, yeah, we have. You just have to be smart enough to freaking figure it out.
Like, so kind of what you're saying, I'm hoping that this age of the internet brings us upward, right? Because it seemed to for a while. It seemed like it was bringing us upward. And now I'm not certain it's not just moving sideways. Like the establishment bought the media. So then we moved to the internet. But now the internet might be moving back more towards the establishment. So the establishment's starting to own more and more of the conservative internet movement versus just owning the mainstream media, which is not good for anyone. Because like Charlie Kirk, he'll even admit he like has friends in the Trump administration. So he won't say bad things about him. He won't say a bad word about Israel. He won't say a bad word about the police crackdowns, flag burning, nothing. And he's supposed to be one of the young, like, he's like, I'm not the mainstream Republican, or I'm not the establishment Republican. I'm a grassroots movement, Charlie Kirk. But then you refuse to criticize Trump the same way the Fox guys will, then you're the same thing. So like you said, if we can keep going up with this age of internet instead of moving towards like just another entity owned by the establishment, then we have a fighting chance. But
yeah, it's the people like him. They get huge, they get big, and they're afraid of losing that money, and they're afraid of going against the tide and losing those big contracts. That's all it is. They're there to protect their paycheck, and they won't be like Tucker Carlson because they know if they lose that gig, they're not big enough to do a Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson and still get the amount of viewers and have a pretty good cash flow and have set themselves up well to be to divulge themselves of like the Daily Wire or whatever or Fox News and still be relevant and still bring on interesting guests and have a good conversation. they're not big enough. So they have to depend on the Daily Wire to keep those big paychecks coming in. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up. Great conversation as usual. I am in the process. It's going to be a while. There's someone whose name keeps getting thrown around by the grassroots. And let me find his name because you know how I am with names. This David Robertson gentleman is apparently running for state rep, I believe. So I'm trying to work out a way to get him on the show for an interview sooner rather than later. I don't know. He said he's pretty busy right now, but we're going to try to work out a Tuesday night to have him on and talk about his campaign so far, because I know he's doing a lot of door knocking and stuff right now. So we'll try to get him on some point and talk to him about what his views on politics and everything else. We're going to be working on that. But that's going to do it for this week's show, this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report, whatever name, words, language you want to use. Again, thanks to all of you on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, MOLibertyRadio.us, and on the podcasting apps. Thanks again for all your continued viewership and listenership. And we'll see you right here next week, Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. for another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report.